In this video, I inherited an old abandoned farm, but I have absolutely no experience in agriculture and also no money. Our task is to restore it and bring it to a big profit. I hope I will not make mistakes and will manage within 1 year. If you are interested, subscribe and put a like so as not to miss my videos anymore. And now, let's go to the farm. Waking up in the morning, I decided that today was the right time to do some cleaning on our farm. I immediately got down to business. First, I sold all the scrap metal scattered around the territory, removed several old buildings that definitely would no longer be useful, and also sold the broken tractor that was standing at the entrance. When all the junk was dealt with, our balance increased by almost $2,500. Very good. Now we had the means to acquire everything necessary and make the farm much better. Thinking about what to do next, I decided that it was time to pay attention to our orchard so that it would start bringing profit. First, it was necessary to clear the plot of bushes and weeds. I immediately got down to work. When that was done, it was time to prepare everything necessary to launch production. First of all, compost was required, so I went to check our compost pit. To my surprise, it turned out to be almost full. Throwing in one more bale of hay, I ran to the tractor. First, I closed the trailer board so that it would be possible to load compost. Then I attached it to the tractor and headed to the pit. The loading went quite quickly, and in the end, we filled the trailer completely, and still a little compost remained in the pit. Now all that was left was to take it to the orchard. The unloading process was not fast, but gradually the entire plot was filled with valuable fertilizer. The next step was to provide the orchard with water. The problem was that we did not have a suitable container for transporting it. I had to go to the store. There, I chose a mounted tank for $1,500. Quite a suitable option. Attaching it, I returned to the farm and immediately headed to the water tower. Since our tractor was not too powerful, I filled the tank with only 500 liters so that the machine would not tip over. But even that amount lasted for a long time. Now everything was ready, and I was able to launch the process of apricot production. All that remained was to wait for the first boxes with harvest to appear, which we could then sell. For now, I put the tank back in place and decided that it was just the right time to take care of our field. Attaching the cultivator, I headed to plow the land. The work was not going too fast because both the tractor and the plow were very old, which greatly complicated the process. It was especially hard on the steep slopes. The tractor had to pull with its last strength, but despite all the difficulties, after a few hours I still finished plowing the field. Now it was completely ready for sowing. I decided to sow a little later, since at the moment we did not have money to buy the necessary equipment and materials. Therefore, I switched to another task. I decided to tidy up the area near the farm a bit and earn money by selling wood. First, I removed the small bushes growing on the edge. Then I dealt with the tree that stood right in the middle. It did not want to fall after being cut. I had to push it a little with my hands. After that, I uprooted the stump, cut off the interfering small branches, and cut the trunk into convenient parts for loading. When everything was ready, I drove the tractor up to the trailer, opened the rear board, and then went to load the wood. The trailer was filled only halfway, so I decided to take along also the wool that was lying in the warehouse. Fortunately, 2 pallets fit perfectly into the remaining space. First, I went to the sawmill, where I sold the wood and managed to get almost $1,000 for it. After that, I took the wool to the selling point. There, for the 2 pallets, I was paid a little less than $7,000, which made me very happy. Returning home, I parked the trailer in its place and decided that it was time to purchase a mower. I found an inexpensive option for $1,500. Attaching it to the tractor, I immediately went to mow the bushes and grass at the entrance to the farm. The work went faster, and soon about half of the territory was cleared of weeds. When I finished, I parked the tractor in its place and decided that I had earned a rest. Today, our main task was to sow the field. We would not waste time, so we immediately went to the store to purchase a seeder and seeds. While searching, I came across a decent option, a small seeder that our tractor could easily pull. It cost not much, so I bought it right away. Now it only remained to buy seeds. I decided not to skimp and took a big bag of 1,000 liters, for which I paid only $500. This was a profitable purchase. When the seeder was completely filled, I headed home. On the spot, I hired a worker to sow the field, and I myself took care of cleaning bushes and weeds on the farm. While the worker was sowing the field, I managed to completely clear the area of bushes. Since the work on the field was not progressing too quickly, I decided at the same time to take care of the chicken coop and buy several chickens. They needed feed, and so, as not to go to town empty, I loaded into the bed of our pickup boxes with apricots that had already appeared in the orchard and tied them down well. In the restaurant, I managed to sell the harvest profitably for almost $9,000. Apricots turned out to be a very profitable business. After the sale, I went to the store and bought several bags of feed. Loading them into the bed, I drove home. There, I immediately poured the feed into the feeders. And now it only remained to wait until the chickens began to lay eggs. Meanwhile, the worker almost finished sowing. After waiting a little, I saw that the whole field was sown with oats. The next step was fertilization. I remembered that in the warehouse we had several bags of fertilizer. Attaching the device for lifting them, I carefully raised one of the bags and poured the contents into the fertilizer spreader. I fertilized the field completely. It took about one bag. Now, when the field was sown and fertilized, I could think about new tasks. There was still money left on the account, and I decided to purchase pigs. 10 piglets cost a little more than $2,000. True, they were still too small and would grow for about 6 months. To begin with, they needed feed. I went to the warehouse, where I had previously seen a bag of pig feed, and brought it. While they were small, this should last for a long time. It only remained to fill the trough with water, and with that, the work for today was finished. Since we already had the tank, all that was left was to fill it with water and bring it to the pigs, which I did. After that, I decided to continue mowing the grass around the plot, because almost half of the territory was still overgrown. Attaching the mower to the tractor, I got to work. This took several hours, and by evening, almost the entire area was cleared of weeds. I had no strength left, so I parked the tractor in its place and decided to rest. The next morning, having regained some strength, I decided to take care of the vegetable garden located behind the house. It had long been waiting for its turn, and now the time had come to put it in order and prepare it for planting. For this, it was necessary to add fertilizer, sow the soil with seeds, and also provide it with water. Fortunately, all this was quite available to us, so I immediately went to the tractor. Attaching the bag lifter and the trailer, I headed toward the store to buy the missing materials. Arriving at the place, I slowly chose everything necessary. 1 bag of seeds for the vegetable garden, as well as a bag of feed for the pigs, since our reserves were quickly running out. I carefully loaded all this into the trailer, secured it so that nothing would spill on the road, and went home. First of all, I immediately poured the feed into the feeders so that the pigs would not remain hungry. The next point was the seeds for the vegetable garden. I transported the bag and began pouring it into the garden. After that, all that remained was to fertilize the soil. Since 2 bags of fertilizer were still stored in the warehouse, I headed there. Carefully lifting one of them with the lifter, I transported and poured the contents onto the garden. Now the only thing left was to provide the garden with water. I took the trailer back to its place. After that, I attached the tank and brought the water. First, I filled it at the water tower and then delivered it to the garden beds. All that was left was to turn on the vegetable production, and the garden started working. The result turned out to be good. At the same time, I was keeping an eye on the other productions and animals. In the orchard, the compost had run out, so I filled the trailer at the compost pit and brought it to production. I also decided to completely fill the pig's trough with water so as not to have to carry it too often. This took time, but in the end, the trough was almost full. Then I got busy arranging the farm. First, I fenced the orchard, so now the chickens would not run inside. Then I arranged a small pond on the edge of the plot, put a fence around it, laid a path, and installed a gazebo. It became much neater and more convenient. I also sold the old barn and received a little more than $7,500. In its place, I built a new hangar for $10,000. In the center of the yard, where earlier the broken tractor had stood, I cleared the trash and made a small flower bed to add a bit of coziness. The farm was gradually becoming better and better. The main tasks were done, and all that remained was to wait until the oats ripened. Therefore, I decided to end the day and rest. Several months passed, and our oats finally fully ripened. During this time, we managed to earn almost $44,000, which became an excellent result for our farm. Since it was time to go to the store for a new combine harvester, I decided at the same time to collect all the products accumulated on the farm and take them for sale. First of all, I collected all the eggs that our chickens had managed to lay, as well as honey from the beehives. At the restaurant, I was paid a little more than $400 for the honey, and the eggs brought almost $2,000. For our budget, this turned out to be very profitable. Now, there was definitely enough money for the purchase of an excellent combine. In the store, I settled on a relatively inexpensive model, which by its characteristics was perfectly suitable for our farm. Together with the header, it cost us a sum close to $17,000. The purchase was justified because the machine was reliable, easy to maintain, and ideally suited for harvesting oats. In order not to waste extra time, I hired a worker, and together we went to drive the combine to the farm. Having reached home, I immediately got to work. As soon as the bunker of the combine was filled for the first time, I moved to the tractor and once again hired a worker for the combine. Now, my task was reduced to monitoring his work and picking up the harvest in time. I drove up with the trailer, unloaded the grain, and took it to the elevator. This is how we worked until the end of the harvest. The last trailer I also took to the elevator, but decided to leave about 2,000 liters of grain to process it into pig feed. For this, I took it to the warehouse and poured it into the crusher. After finishing the work, I parked all the equipment in its places and, tired, went to rest while our pigs were growing. Waking up already in December, I was surprised to notice that our balance had grown to $75,000. We had earned this money thanks to the work of all our productions. During the same time, the pigs had grown significantly and began to require more food. Checking the warehouse near the crusher, I saw that 3 bags of feed were standing there. I got into the tractor, carefully transported 1 bag to the pigsty, and poured it into the feeders. Now the animals were satisfied, and I had a little free time. Since there was enough money in the account, I decided to go to the store and purchase new equipment. The old tractor was already coping poorly with heavy tasks, so I settled on a more powerful model, namely a small crawler tractor. It cost almost $50,000, but this purchase was worth it because with its help we would be able to work the land much faster and earn even more. To deliver it home, I bought a small trailer for our pickup. It cost only $1,000, but such a thing would definitely come in handy on the farm. Hitching it to the car, I drove the tractor onto the platform and took it to the farm. Since we still had some money left, I decided to improve the territory. The old hangars, which had long since worn out, I dismantled, and in their place, I built new ones. In addition, near the house, I arranged a separate garage for the pickup, and the equipment from under the large shed I moved into the new hangars. Now our farm looked completely renewed and restored. We had gone a long way from an abandoned plot to a farm that brought stable and large income. Each improvement, each purchase made it better and more convenient, and I was truly glad about the results. And if you liked this video, put a like, subscribe to the channel. Bye everyone.